Good evening. Hope all's well. So, we are now going to be going live with Musa Lama, all the way in Philadelphia, USA, a real estate agent who works for Compass, one of the biggest real estate companies in the US. So, while we're waiting, here we go. Let me just send him a notification. Cool. Hello, Bami Mora. Hope all's well. Real estate Lama. Let me just take you in. Musa,
There he is. What's going on, Martha? How are you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome salam, brother.
How are you? Are you well?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you. How about yourself?
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yep, all is well. Just was really looking forward to this live session that we are going to have right now, discussing properties in the US, especially where you are in Philadelphia. Thank you so much for joining me.
No, thank you for the
And
invite, man. Appreciate it.
it's a pleasure to have you on to share that knowledge. Like I mentioned, I do this to share the knowledge, the positivity, with all this negativity that's around us, people like ourselves within our age bracket, or it be a business investor, property investor, anyone. It can be a university graduate, anyone who's going through this negative moment right now during this COVID lockdown period that we're going through, to share that knowledge and bring out that positivity in their life, in whatever they're doing. So thank you so much for joining me on that. And through that, we're obviously going to be sharing about what you do in the property world in Philadelphia. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, man. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Super. So before we start, Musa, can you introduce yourself as to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Musa. So I'm a real estate agent here in Philadelphia. I've been so for about 3 years now.
Okay.
I left the family car business. We used to do retail sales here as a used car business and export.
Okay.
So they still have that going on, but I figured that, I wanted to try something different. So I got into real estate, and I honestly have not looked back since.
So when you started, before you started working for a real estate company and your family business, did you always aspire to be in that sort of field, like your family car business, or did you want to be something else in life?
So I always liked business growing up, honestly, and we're on the Lebanese mindset, Lebanese
Of
family and
course,
Arab mindset. So I just kind of always wanted to stay in the family business. So I was doing that. I honestly started working with them since I was like maybe 12, 13, give or take,
Wow.
helping here and there. So it just kind of grew from there. I never finished college myself, so I always went
Okay.
from, high school right into the business, and I worked with them
Okay.
up until I was about, I would say like 23 or something like that. So, but then I figured it just wasn't for me. I love cars, but I wasn't really into the car sales or anything like that. I wasn't into the exporting business, so I wanted to try something different. So I ended up taking about maybe 4 to 5 months off. I actually went home to Lebanon and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life, and figured
Cool.
I'd come back here and just get into real estate. And yeah, it
You
was
mentioned that while you were in the car business, you were doing some sort of import and export. What were you doing? What sort of products were you
so
dealing with?
well, used cars. So we used to send used
Okay.
cars over to Lebanon and Africa, and they still do that. I was handling a lot of the running around,
Gotcha.
doing paperwork because I was so young in the business,
I see.
as well as selling a few cars here and there in the US. But yeah, so that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I just kind of, just
Just
took
got
off and did
into
my own thing afterwards.
just got into real estate. Um,
Hmm.
so did you decide directly. I know that in the US you've got Century 21, who are one of the big pioneers. You've got Keller Williams, you've got Remax, and you've got Compass. I mean, did you always think that you wanted to get into Compass, or were there other options open for you as well?
So how that is, when I first got in, when I was doing the, the courses to get in my license, my brother was actually really good friends with a broker at Remax.
Okay.
So originally I signed up with them. I, just went there for a year. I did my first year there. I did, believe about 1,000,001 in sales my first year, which
Wow.
was pretty awesome for me, at least, to accomplish that. So from there, I met up with my team leader
Did you
now.
buy yourself a nice supercar with the commissions?
No, sir. No, sir. So, well, that's actually another thing about being in the family, the car business. I actually
Yeah.
never bought a car, so I just drive whatever they have, available for me then. So I got lucky there. I could actually save a few $1,000s, or in other words, a few $100 a month. So I don't have to pay for that.
Good stuff. So tell me about the real estate market. So how long ago did you join Compass after being at Remax?
So that's it. I didn't go directly to Compass. Like I said, I met with my team leader, who's his name is Eli. He's actually an immigrant himself. He's from Albania. I met with
Okay.
him, and I joined a company called Berkshire Hathaway,
Okay. Yep.
and was there for a couple of months. And then, the team inevitably just kind of moved from Berkshire to Compass, and I decided to follow them and then just stay with the team. And also, like, I feel like every decision I've made since the moment I started real estate has just benefited me greatly. So yeah, I think it was the right decision to move here.
And do you think working with that same team from one company to the other helped you out in settling within that company easily?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of myself as just, easygoing and fun, and like to fit in pretty much anywhere I go. So I haven't really found any issue in joining any company that I joined, or the team per se.
Okay. So tell me about the real estate market in Philadelphia. Why should one go to Philadelphia rather than, let's say, New York? I mean, I've spoken to a few agents up in New York, in Texas, in South Carolina, so why is Philadelphia the go-to place possibly to invest in property?
Because it's Philly, man. How can you not love Philly? I have to represent it, man. I'm from here. I was born and raised. I love Philly so much. And as far as an investment standpoint, you could still benefit greatly from, commuting from here to New York
Yeah.
for fraction of the price. So, I mean, being in Philly, it's like you're 2 hours from New York, 2 hours from, well, 2.5 hours or so from like the DC area, from the DMV in general. So it's like the location is unbelievable, and for the price, you get, double or three times the amount of property that you would get in New York and DC, or
What are we looking at price wise for the one bedroom properties right there? I mean, apartments, let's say.
for rent or for purchase.
Oh, for purchase.
So one bedroom, honestly, you could find something between like 200 and up to maybe 500, 600, depending on where you go, and your location. So you can find a one bedroom in the heart of Center City for about, maybe 5 to 700,000.
That's amazing. And what
Whereas
sort
in New
of,
York,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
So I was just saying, like, whereas in New York, if you might find that it's going to be over 1 million easily, and it's not going to be as spacious as it is in Philly.
So it's the same sort of dynamics like how we have it in London, right? You go to the city center in London and you would also find a one bedroom for £1 million. Whereas if you go to
Yeah,
Manchester or Birmingham, for example, you would get a property there for 100,000, or, even
exactly,
go higher, you get it for even less. Um,
exactly.
Return wise, what are we looking at? Let's say I spend 700,000 on this one bedroom apartment in the city center. What sort of yield am I generating?
So it really depends on the property, and we like to look at it as percentage wise.
Yep.
So the average percentage here, you'll get anywhere between currently like about 5.56% to about 8% return on average, depending on the condition and location of the property.
And that's net.
That is that's gross.
That's gross. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's
net,
like
let's say net, I mean, if it's 8%, you'd be netting about seven odd.
Give or
something
take, you'll
like
take
that.
out
Yeah.
like one to 1.5% for, taxes, bills, and, like having a little maintenance fund on the side.
And let's say as a foreign investor, like I'm in the UK right now, and if I decide that okay, I choose Philadelphia as the state that I want to go and invest my money, so you being as a sales agent and Compass being the real estate company, do you look after the whole process from buy, mortgage, and then completing on the property, and then also renting out that property for the client?
Yeah, so we handle that from, point A to point B, from connecting like this, over FaceTime or, live, however your Zoom calls. And we can always do virtual tours. I'm actually, after this call, I have a virtual tour for a client that lives
No.
in Israel. So
Wow.
she's buying a property here. So she invests a lot in Philly. So yeah, we do handle that. And if you're getting a mortgage, we don't necessarily give the mortgage per se, but we do work with lenders that we
With
trust, and
brokers,
they're
yeah.
exactly. So like they're great friends, and we take care of that whole process, and we'll walk you through it, step by step, from start to finish.
That's good to know. Um, in terms of the right now crisis that we're going through, how has that affected the market in Philadelphia? Or has
So
it been
for
affected? Like a lot of people, like I spoke to an agent up in Texas in Dallas, and she mentioned that they've done more during lockdown than they've possibly done before lockdown. So I would
yes,
like to hear
so
your views on. It's the same country, different state, could be
different
different,
state. So no, I have to second that. I've actually never been this busy, and I've been working at home for the past 8 or 9 weeks now. And so yeah, it did obviously slow down because for the longest time we were the only state in the country that we really couldn't show any houses. Like we couldn't physically go into the properties and show them because we weren't considered non-essential up until about 2 weeks, last week, sorry, last Tuesday. Um, it did slow down simply because of that. And then because we couldn't show properties, not a lot of properties got listed. So
and
there was even more limited inventory. But as far as taking like a hit, I didn't really see any slowdown of that sort.
okay,
Because once we opened up again, once we were allowed to show listings, there were, a lot more sales. I read the statistic this morning, but I completely forgot the number. But it was up a significant amount from the beginning of April to the beginning of May in Philadelphia. Like as far as listings getting listed, getting under contract, closing. So it's been good.
and how is the property market doing right now? In terms of,
As far as
have you seen prices drop? Have you seen when buyers come up and say, okay, I'll buy that, but at like a 20, 25%, 30% discount? Is that what's
so
happening in the market right now?
yeah, of course you'll have, both ends of that, like you said. So the listings that were listed at a higher price before the pandemic hit, of course, went down in price because, like, I think the sellers got a little more realistic,
Yeah.
and they saw the market and they adjusted the price accordingly. As far as buyers, you'll always have the buyer that wants to come out. They're not as motivated as somebody that needs to move. That is going to say, "Hey, I'm going to take advantage and list and offer something significantly less." But the ones that are doing that are actually getting outbid by multiple offers on a property that they like.
So
So
there is a lot of movement that's going on
yeah,
during these times even.
yes, sir.
And where do you see the property market escalating to? Do you think like in the next 2 years, 3 years, the Philadelphia property market will possibly appreciate to maybe 15%, 20%? Do you think that's in line to happen, or no? We're seeing slower growth during the first, let's say, 2, 3 years, that people sort of grab that, yes, we were in a pandemic and now we're out of it. So, so like the aftershock kind of thing. Or,
So the aftershock, I do believe they are going to bounce back, and I do believe that the spring market here has not died. Like I think it just got delayed from the spring into summertime. So I do believe we're going to do a lot more transactions in the next 18 months or so. I don't know if they're going to appreciate the 15%, but I do know they are appreciate anywhere between 1 to 3% on average annually. I do think that's going to continue. I don't think that's going
okay,
to die down.
okay.
Um, yeah.
Um, Everyone asks about what's the best deal that you must have done? You know, and the best deals are the best ones. But
Yeah,
I want
so
to ask you about the most complicated deal that you, something that you struggled to complete on. Because look, we're here to shed the light on positivity. So there could be someone who's wanting to be an estate agent, and it's not always about being good, good, good. It's about that, yes, you do go through those times where that one deal will take you possibly 3 to 4 months to complete, maybe even 6. In London, sometimes you even have 12 months. I had an agent who had worked on a property for 3 years to get that property sold. You know, so I mean, not sold, but to the same buyer working on the case for 3 years. So you know, it could take that long. What was the most complicated deal that you did?
oh man, I don't even know how to answer that. Every deal for the most part that I've done so far has had complications. It is a big investment, you know, especially I like to work with a lot of first-time buyers and a lot of investors.
Okay, gotcha.
So investors, of course, want that perfect property. They want the deal. They want, you know, to spend the least amount of money as possible to make the most. But like I said, every deal has, for the most part, been in like a struggle to close. But as far as the advice to like actually becoming an agent and dealing with it, there's no amount of, you know, knowledge or I'm perfectly good at this will ever get you through it. It's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of dedication because you just don't know. You know what I mean? Like you don't know
Yeah,
what's going to come up on, let's say, a title or if anybody owed any back money on the property or if anything came up against a buyer per se. Like you just don't know that. So that's kind of where being on a great team and a brokerage and just asking for the most advice comes in handy because how I like to see it is that there is no issue in this world that arises that cannot be fixed.
of
Like
course.
it's simple. It just takes, it might take a little bit longer, it might be a little bit stressful, but everything can be fixed. And I've had, you know, I've had deals go from point A to point B where it was like the simplest thing in the world. And then I've had a deal where I had to fight for, you know, fight for my life basically to keep it alive and to get the house for the buyer. So there's really, I don't know how to answer that question honestly in direct way. Every deal is different, but like I said, everything can be solved.
That's good.
Every issue can definitely be solved.
Um, the question that I had for you right now is, in terms of the overseas foreign investors that are coming and investing in Philadelphia, where's the biggest amount of population coming from? Where do you see the influx of money coming into Philadelphia
So
overseas?
just overseas or from different
Yeah.
states? So
You could you could give both.
overseas I have clients from Israel purchasing here around like universities and
Okay.
you know downtown areas. I have investors from Turkey as well. And I have a lot of investors and first time buyers coming in from New York and also the DC area.
So is that because they're possibly downsizing, or you know, they just
So
want to
overseas
get?
investors, obviously, they're just going to take advantage of, you know, a deal that where they couldn't invest in New York, they could put down a lot more money and get the same return. Whereas in Philly, they put the same amount of money and get, you know, double or triple the amount of properties.
Of course.
As far as people moving in from other states, again, it's that commute time. So if you work in downtown New York, you can move into Philly, commute maybe like 2 hours, you know, 3, 4 days a week. A lot of buyers are doing that. And then
Wow.
you could potentially save, you know, over $1 million on a property, depending on what you're looking for.
Wow. So this
And
is
not
what.
necessarily downsizing. So if you're coming from New York, you can actually be, you know, upsizing, if that's even a word. Like you can buy something a lot bigger and a lot
No,
nicer
better.
for a lot less money.
It's good to know. Good to know all these points. You know, I mean, this is why I do this, so that a lot of this knowledge that is in there, uh, I wouldn't speak to an agent maybe 3 months ago or 4 months ago, all the way in the US. But now I am, because
Yeah.
it's good to know about these markets, and social distancing has sort of made this possible, that you can speak to anyone around the world and get that knowledge. And possibly at the back of this, you could have someone coming to Philadelphia to invest. You know, you never know. You never know
Yeah,
where this
absolutely.
where this live session might end up. But before you go, and before I wrap this up, firstly, best of luck for the viewing that you have. I hope you're showing
Thank you.
something
Appreciate
absolutely
it.
amazing.
No,
Um,
it's an investor, man. So it's
okay.
gonna be a little rough, but it comes with the
um,
territory.
before you go, a positive piece of advice that you could share with the viewers or anyone who sees this at a later stage, someone who wants some positivity in their life and forget about what's happening.
So positivity, honestly, I mean, I've said it earlier, like there's not an issue that can't be solved, and there's not a virus that has come up historically speaking that has not been taken care of or eradicated or vaccinated, however term you want to use. So,
Yeah,
I mean, everything gets fixed. It's just only a matter of time if you stick with it, you know?
good
Um,
stuff.
and I mean, it's gonna sound cliche. Just like kind of don't lose hope, man. Just keep going forward, do what you do, and it gets better. There's
That's
always.
that.
I posted a picture yesterday. It's just like there's always better days ahead. There really is,
Of course,
and
there's
and
always
I
there's
built.
always light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
You just
and
gotta
and I
push past
believe
it.
that.
Yeah.
I believe that wholeheartedly from where I went to where I've seen my life end up right now in 3 years. And it's like such a short amount of time, and I've never been happier.
That's good to know. We've just got this one final comment that I'll take on, which is, do you think New Yorkers will start buying or Philly and the prices start increasing, or Philly and the prices? I don't
Yeah,
know. Maybe it's
so
or is, yeah,
um,
does make.
I do, and simply because I have a lot of New York buyers currently that I'm working with that are actually moving to Philly, and with everything going on and the amount of the COVID cases in New York and everything going on there, so that's even more reason for people to move out of the city into maybe a smaller populated city or the suburbs per se. But I do believe a lot of people from New York, they have been moving here over the past 3 to 5 years, and I do believe
You're
that they're
making
still
New
gonna.
York sound like it's going to be
No,
deserted
no, no,
next.
no. That will never happen. New York is obviously too great a city to do that. That I don't believe it'll ever die. But like you do get like, let's say you have a small family that you just started and all this going on. Of course, you're gonna worry about your kids, worry about their future and their safety. And I actually spoke with a client from New York yesterday. So their kids are going to college, and they said like, hey, I live in Queens, my kids are growing up, and it kind of becomes scary growing up in a big city, and they want to move to somewhere a little more quiet, so that's why she's moving to Philly. So you'll always have that moving forward. And honestly, I mean, you see in New York, so as much as prices rise in Philly, I don't know if they'll ever match the New York prices, and if they do, then obviously New York is going to go up a little more, you know what I mean?
Of
So
course, I
I
mean,
believe that Philly is always going to be cheaper than New York because New York is New York at the end of the
they
day.
say they say that New York is the nerve center of the U.S., but London is the nerve center of the world.
Hey, I don't doubt it, man. I
Yeah.
want to go to London one day. I haven't actually been and visited all these different places,
Yeah.
so
When you
I'm
come
hoping to
down,
get there one day.
do get in contact. But it's been
Absolutely.
great to have you on board. Speaking about properties up in Philadelphia. It's good to know, and I'm sure people will take a lot of advantage from the live session that we've had. So thank you so much for coming on, sharing that positivity,
Absolutely.
that knowledge, and hopefully either I'll see you in Philadelphia or I'll see you in
Yeah,
London.
man. Absolutely. When you're here, just let me know, man. I live about 5 minutes from the airport. I will personally give you a ride.
Super. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Take
Absolutely,
care,
man. Thank you
Musa.
for having me. Take care,
Bye
man.
bye. So that was Musa Lama, all the way in Philadelphia, who works for a company, real estate company called Compass. Do check him out if you're interested in buying in Philadelphia. Send him a DM, Musa Lama. I'm sure you'll find him. And do check out this live session at a later stage to see if you're interested in investing in the US rather than the UK. Maybe you think the market is different. So thank you so much to Musa Lama for turning up, and to all the viewers that tuned in to watch this live session. Tomorrow's live session. Stay tuned. Take care. Bye bye.